Big W is closing some of their stores. Let's have a look. Good evening, everyone. Florian Heiser here, and welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. I'm here with my backup Stein because my 2-year-old decided to see how they would fly. Always have a backup Stein, guys, particularly if you're using it on your YouTube channel. I thought tonight we'd look at this article regarding Big W closing some of their shops because, you know, Big W is a large retail brand for low-cost clothing and other items, and it's kind of a sign of the times in our retail sector. I know everyone's saying the economy is powering ahead more and more, but, you know, we're hearing more and more about retailers closing, you know, companies going under. Hog's Breath, a lot of their shops have recently gone under. So Big W now are closing, what, up to 30 stores? How's unemployment? Apparently still at 5.2. I think I prefer the Roy Morgan estimate, and I'll link to that if you haven't watched it. So let's have a look through this article. So Big W has announced it will close 3 stores in Western Sydney next year, roughly 3 months after revealing it would cull up to 30. So 30 shops they're going to close, and that's a decent amount of shops. Retail giant Woolworths said it would close Big W stores in Chulara, Auburn and Fairfield, after having reached an agreement with landlords to shut down operations in 6 months' time. Now, I wonder, would Big W's be considered an anchor tenant and a draw card for people to go to some of these centres? I know maybe it would. I'm probably not the demographic to be going to a Big W, and I think Rachel goes to a Kmart because it's cheaper, or parking's easier. These are not decisions we take lightly, and we regret the impact closures will have on affected team members, Big W Managing Director David Walker said in a statement. Over the next 6 months, we will support our team and explore redeployment opportunities with team members who choose to continue their career with Big W or with other Woolworths Group brands in the months ahead. So people are going to lose their jobs. People are going to lose their jobs, and these are retail jobs, and the retail sector is copying it. It really is. So the Eleanor Retail Property Fund made a similar announcement telling the ASX on Thursday that the Big W in Auburn Central Shopping Centre would close at the end of January 2020, describing the closure of the 7,159 square metre store as a positive catalyst for the transformation of the centre into a Sydney metropolitan dual supermarket neighbourhood shopping centre. Notice how they put that positive spin on it. And that's to do with, the retail properties, the rent in those retail properties is used to evaluate them. Now, I didn't realise this. When I was renting in a retail space, they wanted to sign me on for another several years, which I regret doing because I didn't, it just ended up costing me more money. But the reason they wanted me to sign that lease for a longer period, even though they gave me all these incentives and they locked me into, below market rate, was because it increased the value of their asset. So if ever you're in a situation like that, remember, you're giving them more money, a lot more money, by signing that piece of paper. It increases the value of what they have. And that's an interesting lesson I guess I learned the hard way, not appreciating how valuable it was. So having these large tenants, 7,000 square meter tenants, leave these centers, depending on the size, this example, that's going to actually be a dent to the value of their center. It's going to affect the value of it, because that's what they look at. They look at the earning potential of these retail centers. And you see more and more of them are trying to do whatever they can to become destinations. So they're putting in like another food court and all these experiences and jazzing it up, like Robina down the Gold Coast. They spent a fortune on the kitchens. And, it looks pretty, but it's kind of starting to feel a bit dated. I can really feel that it'll date really quick. So, and the problem with that is where they've got, existing food courts and then they're adding another one in there. They're competing with their own people. So these retail property owners, you can't trust them either. I've heard stories of where they wanted to get a butcher to leave and he had a lease signed up for years. So they hired actors to talk at a cafe in the centre where they knew the butcher would go to pretend that they were talking about another butcher coming in, and then he demanded that to be let out of the lease and all these things, so they could kick him out and expand a larger retail centre. So you got to be careful. The closures are the first of 30 that Woolworths plans over the next 3 years' time, and part of a broader review aimed at building a more sustainable and profitable network of stores. But according to a senior industry analyst, Woolworths would have to close more than 30 Big W stores if it was serious about boosting profitability. So how many of their stores then are running at a loss if they need to close that many? What does that tell us? What does that tell us about the retail sector? We're not talking, I mean, sure, they're large format, they're large square meter. Do you think, is Amazon affecting it? Affiliate link below, cha-ching. I'm kidding, but thank you to those of you that do use those links. I notice it every little bit helps. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how much of a difference it makes. So would Amazon be affecting these types of stores? How many of you are regular shoppers at Big W or Kmart? How many of you have switched to online shopping to save money or time? How many of you just stopped going and pissing money away on garbage? I mean, you're never going to get quality at these places. Are they that much different from a $1 shop? I think for us, they're good for kids' clothes because they just get destroyed. The kids just destroy them so quick, and it's so cheap. It's cheaper than making them yourself. 30 stores is surprising, back to the article, because most analysts expected it to be more. Ibis World senior industry analyst Kim Do said in the wake of April's announcement. They've said they'll close 30 in the next 3 years, but Ibis World predicts the number will grow in the next 5 if their profits don't improve. It'll be interesting to follow. It definitely will be. It'll be sad for the people that are involved. Woolworths Group CEO Brad Banducci said in April that the group's plans, which involve closing down a distribution centre in Monarto, South Australia, and one in Warwick, Queensland, would incur a one-off pre-tax charge of approximately $370 million. So think about that. They're having to spend $370 million to save money. But he said the group's plans would better reflect the rapidly changing retail environment and accelerate our turnaround plan through a more profitable store network. What does that tell you? What's happening there? Rapidly changing retail environment. I understand foreign companies also more are coming into Australia to add more competition. Woolworths has 183 Big W stores located across Australia. The division lost $110 million in the last financial year, and their shares were down 0.61% to $34.09 on Thursday. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see their share price drop. And let's just have a look. I'll bring that up in a moment. And I remember when Woolworths shares were much less. I think this is just really a reflection of the state of the retail sector. I've done a video about this before, about our retail sector heading towards recession. And here we go. We'll just bring this up now. And this is showing you the current Woolworths Group Limited, their shares. They've shot up again. They're at 34.5. And this is, 10 o'clock. We will change it to 1 month time frame. And you can see, okay. I mean, they went down a little bit, but not that much. We'll go 6 months. So they're still climbing up. Oh, they're heading down. We've had a crossover here on the MACD, the RSI. It's going down, so they haven't been oversold. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes, guys. What do you think will happen? Do you think this is a sign of the times? Do you think the retail sector is in trouble here in Australia? Do you think there are going to be more opportunities for Woolworths? How will this affect the South Australian economy? I think it'll have a big impact in South Australia. What about in Sydney, in Western Sydney? We've seen two arguments put forward for the way our unemployment rate is calculated. We've got the ABS one, we've got the Roy Morgan one. ABS is happily saying and repeating again that we're 5.2. Roy Morgan is saying that we're over 9%, 9.2%. 30 shops closing over a few years. That's going to be, a decent, reasonable number of people. The distribution centers closing as well. That's telling you, okay, if they're getting rid of the back end, that's an issue as well. That's a big issue. So we'll have to see. The fact that they lost $110 million is concerning as well. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining me for this episode. Please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. Remember, always have a backup Stein, and I will see you all again tomorrow. Bye for now.